And then we move on to Karoline, the lying bitch, Leavitt. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, because that's all she does. She puts on that cross over her neck, calls herself a good, wholesome Christian, and spews garbage and lies every single day. And this is another example. Listen to what Karoline Leavitt said about the Michigan shooting. She didn't blame it on the radical right, even though we know this was a Trump supporter. No, she didn't blame it on any of the rhetoric from the right, even though we know that this shooter actually retweeted stuff from Donald Trump talking about election interference and conspiracy theories. But this is what Karoline Leavitt had to say about this Michigan shooting.
The FBI director tell you about the shooter? What do we know?
What we know at this point in time is that he was a member of this Michigan community, that he is a veteran of our United States Armed Forces. He served in the United States Marine Corps in Iraq. His family is cooperating with the FBI, and so they are currently trying to dig in and get to the bottom of why he committed this heinous act of violence. It's unfathomable. And as the president rightfully put in his Truth Social yesterday, this appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians. And the Trump administration is fully committed to not only investigating these crimes, but prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law, but also working very hard to prevent them, to see if there's red flags. The FBI is going to treat those as public safety emergencies and investigate them to try to prevent such violence from taking place in our country.
Interesting. Can you imagine for a moment if the shooter had Joe Biden signs in his front yard, or if the shooter was seen in public with Joe Biden shirts? I guarantee you Karoline Leavitt would be the first person to blame this on the radical left and a radical leftist. Interesting. You didn't hear anything from Karoline Leavitt blaming it on the right. You didn't hear anything from Karoline Leavitt blaming it on the radical right. Because this guy was a Trump supporter. How do we know? Because there were Trump signs in his front yard. How do we know? Because he was seen wearing Trump shirts and paraphernalia on his social media, retweeting Donald Trump. But you won't hear anything from Karoline Leavitt blaming this on the right or the rhetoric from the right. Can you imagine what she would have said if this guy was a huge, staunch Democrat Joe Biden supporter? She would have only blamed it on the radical left. So would Donald Trump. But they don't seem to be doing that here. Geez, I wonder why. I wonder why that is. And now here's Karoline Leavitt bragging about what the great job that they did in prosecuting people to the fullest extent of the law, like in the Charlie Kirk murder. Folks, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Have a listen to this.
And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI. I think the American people in your audience can be assured. Look at the great work that the FBI did in light of, or in the hours and days following the assassination, on Charlie Kirk's life. That was a successful investigation, and that investigation continues. And that assassin was, of course, being held accountable in the court of law now.
Oh, really? Well, why is he being held accountable? What did you guys do? What did Kash Patel do? Well, first of all, you arrested the wrong person. Second of all, Kash Patel said he had a person of interest in custody, and then an hour later let that person go. The only reason why this guy Robinson is behind bars right now, it's not because of Kash Patel. It's not because of the Trump administration. It's not because of the DOJ. It's because his own father and boyfriend turned him in. This was not a successful investigation. You guys screwed up from the beginning, and the only reason why you caught the guy is because his father gave him to you. That's the only reason. Karoline the lying bitch Leavitt doing it again. And this is so interesting because then Karoline Leavitt goes into food assistance programs. She claims Democrats seem to care so much about food assistance. And yet she forgets the fact that the big and beautiful bill is the reason why billions of dollars are being taken away from food assistance from so many Americans around this country that desperately need it.
Because the overwhelming majority of the American public wants to keep the government open. I mean, it's not even close. Democrats and Republicans, independents across the country want the government funded because they want our military and our troops to be paid. They want TSA agents and Border Patrol to be paid. They want food assistance programs for women and children in impoverished communities to continue going out the door. All of that will come to an end if Democrats vote against this clean CR that Republicans are proposing. And might I just add, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are on the record multiple times in their past political lives stating that they too believe a government shutdown is bad. In fact, I quote, Chuck Schumer just last year in 2024 said a shutdown would mean chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Well, we hope that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats won't cause chaos and pain and heartache. We want our country to continue to be funded. We want our government to be open so we can continue doing the business of the American people.
Really? Is that so? Tell me what that big and beautiful bill does again for people that are on food stamps. Tell me what that big and beautiful bill does for people that are on Medicaid. You're telling me that Republicans are the party that do not want chaos when Donald Trump thrives on chaos? We see it every single day. But you're saying the Democrats are the ones that are causing chaos? What would you call January 6th? Was that chaos? Who incited that? But she wants to preach to us that the Democrats are the ones that are causing chaos. Is this for real? Is this for real? Karoline, the lying bitch Leavitt, and trust me, there's a lot of other choice words I could use to describe her because she is an utterly despicable human being. She's reprehensible. She's disgusting. But yet, she's the one who wears that cross and lies to the American people every single day. Karoline the liar Leavitt, who I've said on this show plenty of times, the fake Christian that she is. And I just think she's a phony and a despicable human being. So the blonde bimbo bitch, which I'm just going to call her what it is, that's exactly what she is. She's a despicable human being, just like a Laura Ingraham who puts that fake cross around her neck. Oh, I'm a good, wholesome Christian. No, you're not. You married the Crypt Keeper. Congratulations on that one. And you lie for Donald Trump, the other Crypt Keeper, on a daily basis. Listen, Karoline Leavitt, I'm just going to say this, okay? Karoline Leavitt would certainly do a twirl for Donald Trump, and I'm sure she would offer Donald Trump sexual favors if Trump threatened her job. She's that kind of person. I really believe that's who Karoline Leavitt is. I think she's despicable in every sense of the word. And she made an appearance on Sean Hannity's show yesterday because, of course, that's where they all go to. The Stephen Millers of the world, the Karoline Leavitts of the world, and those in Donald Trump's administration. They go to where it's safe. It'll be a Newsmax or Fox News. That's where Pam Bondi lives, by the way. I don't know how she has time to work. It appears as though Karoline Leavitt and Pam Bondi are on Fox News more than some of the anchors on Fox News are on Fox News. But listen to what Karoline Leavitt had to say about the economy and the history of the economy. Have a listen to this.
We had an economy that was left in the dust, but again, thanks to President Trump's pro-growth policies. And now we have the one big, beautiful bill on its way to his desk. It's in the Senate now, being marked up and amended so it can go back to the House and then to the president, ultimately for signature this summer.
So it is interesting, isn't it, that I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard, the economy that Donald Trump took over after Barack Obama left office, from what I recall, was a pretty strong economy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but back in January of 2021, it seemed to be in the toilet, and it seems to be a lot better, or seemed to be a lot better, in January of 2025. Am I wrong?
Well, they're not economic facts. The fact is the GDP growth is down and only expected to be 0.1 to 0.2% as we move along. Also, yeah, he might have lowered prices of a couple of things, but interest rates going back up to an all-time high. Houses, I don't know if you saw the article, but in Las Vegas, they're saying the housing is going back up, even though they promised it was going to go down and be more affordable. And so when you look at the economy, more people are using their credit cards than ever. More people are missing payments than ever, and more people are using their savings more than ever. That is not a good, solid economy.
And Karoline Leavitt, once again, lying. And I go back to Democrats versus Republicans when it comes to just the presidencies. in history. And you look at what Bill Clinton did, and he left the economy and he left us with a surplus, and he was able to reach across the other side of the aisle. You can talk about his personal life all you want to, but as far as being fiscal responsible, there was nobody better in my lifetime than Bill Clinton. And then George W. Bush takes over, and a MAGA Republican gets us into an ill-advised war and puts our economy into the tank. Barack Obama takes over, and for the next 8 years, it took time for him to clean up the mess that the Bush administration had left. And Obama left Donald Trump a really good, sound, quality economy. And, you know, you can say, well, Brian, it was COVID. You look at the unemployment numbers. It wasn't. You look at the unemployment numbers before COVID, and they were tanking.
It wasn't. It wasn't that at all. He added $2.2 trillion, Trump did, in his last presidency to the debt just by lowering the tax rate for businesses. If you recall, it went from, I believe, about 20% to about 15%, which was about 2.2 trillion.
Right.
When he left, it was up about 4 trillion. Now, so the payments on the $36 trillion debt that we have are $1.1 trillion. That's just the interest payments. And he wants to add another 4 to 5 trillion on top of that. Why? Just to give the billionaires more tax cuts while the hardworking people have to pay at the highest rates.
And listen, for those of you that voted for Donald Trump, you can say until the cows come home that you think Trump is doing a good job. But the bottom line is Republicans don't know how to govern. And when you look at our debt and you look at Republicans that have been in office for decades and you look at who has gotten us in deeper debt, it's
Historically,
obviously Republicans.
Over the last
It's not
20
even
years,
close.
you can go back 5 presidents, and it can show that consistently the Democrats save us money when they're in office and the Republicans spend. I would dare, I don't know if I can do this, but I would dare someone to call in and tell me the difference between a conservative Republican and a MAGA who's a MAGA or a conservative Republican, because we've talked to many of them. I don't think they know the difference.
No, I don't
because a conservative Republican could never agree with the policies that are coming out. There's no way.
I completely agree with you. So you have Karoline Leavitt lying about the economy and certainly what's been going on here in the last 10 years. Listen to what she says about electricians and plumbers last night, and somehow she ties that into the LGBTQ community because, of course, we know MAGA Republicans like to hate on transgenders, like to hate on people who are gay, like to hate on minorities, and for whatever reason, this was on the tops of the list for Karoline Leavitt to attack the gay community. Have a listen to this.
And the president is more interested in giving that taxpayer money to trade schools, in programs, in state schools, where they are promoting American values, but most importantly, educating the next generation based on skills that we need in our economy and our society. Apprenticeships, electricians, plumbers. We need more of those in our country and less LGBTQ graduate majors from Harvard University. And that's what this administration's position is. And we also are not going to tolerate the illegal, criminal, anti-Semitic behavior that we saw take place at Harvard and many other college campuses across the country.
Yeah, Karoline Leavitt wants to talk about criminal behavior, yet she works for a guy who's a 34-count felon. I also find it interesting that in that little diatribe, she went on to attack the LGBTQ community. Leonard, why are MAGA Republicans so obsessed with people who are transgender and people who are gay? And why does she bring that up in this conversation?
I think that's part of the self-righteousness you find in the evangelicals and some of the Christians, because a true Christian doesn't, if you read the Bible, it doesn't hate it. They don't hate anybody. Everyone's your brother. Everyone's your sister. And while you can disagree with their lifestyle, you can't judge them for it. So if you're judgmental, that's probably going to work against you in the long run. I think that maybe some of them, and I don't have any personal knowledge of this, may have those tendencies. And so some psychologists would say they hate the part of themselves that feels that they would like to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So they attack it.
It's really sick. It's disgusting. And Karoline Leavitt, again, is one of those fake Christians, despicable human beings that...
Let's invite her on the show.
Yeah, well, she's done this show before. I don't know if she'll do it again.
Really?
Yeah, she did this show last year. But, Karoline Leavitt is your typical right-wing evangelical Christian, white, wholesome woman who is married to the Crypt Keeper, by the way. And Leavitt is, simply put, an individual who will attack the gay community, attack minorities, call being gay a sin, when she is the best sinner of them all, if there is even a term like that. Now, this is also an interesting point of her appearance yesterday, because we keep hearing about all these deals and the art of the deal and all these deals that Trump is making, right? 90 deals in 90 days, which we know was a farce and a lie. She called the deal with the UK miraculous. I'm not making this up. Have a listen.
For the trade talks, since you mentioned them, I was just going back and forth with our United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer, who informed me that the Trump administration continues to be in intensive talks with India, and the president, of course, has applied very public pressure to the European Union so that they too can have a miraculous trade deal, just like we cut with Britain and our friends in the United Kingdom. So we continue to move forward in cutting good deals that put the American people and the American worker first.
Can somebody please explain to me, Leonard, or anybody, how this deal with the UK was miraculous? Can somebody please help me out with that? How was this deal miraculous? What was it that America got?
Tariffs. They came back and said, let's not do that. Let's work together. And so really it's a zero sum. Nothing got done. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Nothing was instituted. And they were talking.
What was
anyway.
miraculous about it? Like, I don't understand. What was miraculous? She uses the term miraculous.
That might have been the word of the day.
You know what that's like saying? That's like saying when Donald Trump takes his shirt off, he looks miraculous. Is there any woman on the planet that would say that? I mean, listen, if you like male boobs, okay, and you like a hairy chest, maybe that's your thing. Okay, fine. I won't say I respect that, but that's your fetish. That's totally okay. But is there anybody that would say, I don't know, would Stormy Daniels say when Donald Trump took his clothes off and was on top of me for 13 seconds, he was miraculous in bed? No, that's like saying this deal in the UK was miraculous. It's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Miraculous.
If he imposed the sanctions on Russia, that might not be miraculous, but it would be close. If he decided to send arms to the Ukraine, and arm them and help them in the fight, that would be miraculous. But I think he has other plans.
Donald Trump is miraculous in the sack. Donald Trump is miraculous that he's only 1 pound under being obese. Isn't that interesting? 239 pounds. I'm sure there's no coincidence there. I'm sure he's 239 pounds. I think his left boob weighs about 200 pounds. It's just so stupid and it's so ridiculous. It's miraculous that people out there actually still support Donald Trump. It's miraculous that people out there think that Karoline Leavitt is doing a good job. It's miraculous that people think she's a good Christian. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is miraculous that there are so many stupid people in the United States of America that still support a 34-count felon adjudicated rapist. And then Karoline Leavitt goes to the Rasmussen poll. Now, as you know, Donald Trump had some of the lowest poll numbers in 70 years for the first 100 days in office, but she's going to go to this one poll that makes it sound like the country all believe that we're headed in the right direction. Have a listen to this.
That's right, Sean. There is good news today. Consumer confidence hit a record high, and also the highly respected pollster Matt Rasmussen showed that the majority of Americans view our country as heading on the right track under President Trump. This is a stark contrast to what that same polling showed under the previous disastrous administration led by Joe Biden. As for
I see. It's interesting, though, because Leavitt didn't talk about some of the worst poll numbers for the first 100 days in office with any president ever in the history of the country. But she's going to go to this poll, by the way, which I haven't seen. And I find it hard to believe that the majority of Americans think that the country's headed on the right track under Donald Trump, who, again, has some of the worst numbers in American history.
Consumer confidence is way down.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. You know, I was thinking about you the other day, Mooch, when Karoline Leavitt in front of the podium is lying to the American people like she does every day. And she says in this bill, there'll be no tax on Social Security. That is literally a blatant lie. That's not in the bill. And I thought about you because, number one, I know you would never say things like that.
No, I didn't lie. That's why I got fired so quickly. They were saying, did you say this and say that? So I'm not saying that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not saying that. I got 5 kids, and I'm not saying that. And then after 11 days, bye-bye. But Karoline is a funny kid because she was an intern when I was there. You know, she's 27, I think. She was probably 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. She was an intern. She was nervous. When I left there, she was part of the people that said I was mean to the staff. Huh. And you probably wouldn't remember this, but the Daily Mail said that I was mean to the staff, which is the reason why Trump fired me. That was like adversaries trying to like drop bombs on me. And I'm laughing because my CIO has been with me for 25 years. My chief administrative officer, 33 years. My driver's been with me for 30 years. I mean, he's my age, he's about to retire. I don't know. I've been nice to everybody. I would never do that. So this is politics. She's a congenital liar. She loves her job. She thinks she's doing a great job, and she is doing a great job for lying MAGA. If you want to be a liar and you want to be known as a liar for the rest of your life, get to the podium and do an eloquent, great job lying and telling people the untruths that you just uttered, Brian. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I find her about as reprehensible as anybody that I've come across, and she's perfect for him because, you know, if she were a guy, she would have been fired by now because she gets a lot of attention and he doesn't like that. But because she's a blonde woman getting the attention, it's okay. That's Trump's personality. That's something people need to know.
So Karoline Leavitt, as I like to call Karoline, the lying bitch Leavitt, and if people don't like that type of strong language, I could care less, because the people who don't like that kind of language are probably the same people that have no problem with Donald Trump bragging about sexual assault, attacking Gold Star families and POWs and our brave men and women in uniform. So I could give two flying Fs if you guys don't like my language, because that's what she is. She is a lying, fake Christian bitch is what she is. She's dangerous for the country. She lies to the American people every day. And I again, have the proof, which is in the pudding, every time she reaches the podium. And today was no different. So Leavitt was asked, again, the lying bitch, Karoline Leavitt, was asked about military action and will the president go to Congress to seek war authority, which we know is the law of the land, right? We know that that's what the president is supposed to do. And I want you to listen to this moron and this lying piece of human scum answer this question. Have a listen.
The U.S. were to take some type of military action, would the president go to Congress to seek war authority?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals. I gave you the statement from the president. He'll make a decision within 2 weeks.
Thank you, Carol.
Sure. Let's go ahead.
I'm not going to speak in hypotheticals. So if we ask you, is the president going to abide by the rule of law? Would the response be, I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals? No. You are supposed to go to Congress to seek the authority to go to war. That answer tells you right there that they are not going to do that. I guarantee you, if in fact this does happen, which I believe it probably will, he will not go to Congress. He will skip Congress. He will walk all over Congress, just like he did with the Supreme Court with Mr. Garcia. I'm not going to speak in hypotheticals. So if we ask you the question, are you going to abide by our Constitution? I'm not going to speak in hypotheticals. It's just such a ridiculous response, and it's so embarrassing from the lying, fake Christian bitch, Karoline Leavitt. And then the question is asked, basically, Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, is he hearing their voices, and could that have anything to do with this 2-week delay?
Like that.
Thank you. To what extent is this 2-week delay with Iran the result of interventions by the likes of Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or the entreaties of European leaders who want a de-escalation?
Look, the president hears all voices across the country, and he makes decisions based on his instincts. And he has always said diplomacy is his first option.
And is he still planning to attend the NATO summit next week?
He is, yes. We will be departing from Washington on Monday morning, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. Kayla.
Yeah, wonderful instincts that Donald Trump has. Have a listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson to help make your decision on foreign policy. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the same person who doesn't even read bills that she votes on. Tucker Carlson, the right-wing propagandist who was even fired from Fox News because he was so crazy to the right and nutty. But he is correct when it comes to this situation in Iran. And then comes Jasmine Crockett, who it seems like anybody in the Trump administration have a serious problem with any powerful women that happen to be black, Jasmine Crockett being one of them, who speaks out on Donald Trump regularly. Now, she made a statement, there is some context to it, that a lot of Trump supporters were mentally ill. I would actually agree with that wholeheartedly, because I've had personal interactions with some of them. They are mentally ill. I had a personal interaction with someone who's a TV person who works in Las Vegas, who I believe is mentally ill because he's so pro-Donald Trump. And listen to Karoline Leavitt's response to this question.
Really quick on Jasmine Crockett. She said, I believe, that Trump supporters are mentally ill before calling for bipartisan support against the president. Can you respond to that, especially considering she's a rising star in the Democrat Party right now.
She is a rising star. It's quite something to behold, actually. I hope that she continues to be a rising star for the Republican Party, at least. I think it's incredibly derogatory to accuse nearly 80 million Americans of mental illness. The last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett couldn't dream of winning such a majority of the public as President Trump did. And the America First movement, which President Trump has built, is filled of hardworking patriots, the forgotten men and women, business owners, law enforcement officers, nurses and teachers, and middle America, as we all know, from where you all grew up outside of this beltway. That's who makes up this president's movement. And Jasmine Crockett should go to a Trump rally sometime and she can see it for herself.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what? I've been to Trump rallies. I saw it for myself. I saw a lot of hatred. I saw a lot of bigotry. I saw signs like F, Joe, and the Ho. I saw people selling Bibles, Trump Bibles, Trump trading cards, Trump condoms, Trump gold sneakers, 99% white, with a lot of anger and with a lot of hatred. I saw it firsthand. I went to multiple Trump rallies, Karoline. And I went to Kamala Harris rallies, and I saw a lot of love. I saw people from all different types of races, sexuality. And it was a message of positivity. 49% of people who voted decided to vote for Donald Trump. I still don't seem to understand it, especially when you see all the No Kings rallies across the country, tens of millions of people. But it is what it is. But you see, they see somebody like Jasmine Crockett, who is a obviously educated, intelligent, outspoken, powerful black woman. And somebody like Karoline Leavitt is not used to that. Certainly Donald Trump doesn't want that. And many of Donald Trump's supporters don't want that. But if you want to talk about being derogatory to, 80 million Americans, which is what Karoline Leavitt suggested Jasmine Crockett was doing, what about Donald Trump when he said, if you're Jewish and you don't vote for me, you need to get your head examined? What about Charlie Kirk, who said you're not a true Christian if you don't support Donald Trump? What about those comments? I guess those comments are totally okay as long as it's pro-Trump and anti-anybody who doesn't vote for Donald Trump. But if there's anything derogatory, in this case, I would say what Jasmine Crockett said was true about many Trump supporters. All of a sudden, Karoline Leavitt has a problem with derogatory. Well, what about when Donald Trump attacks women on looks? When he did that to Ted Cruz's wife and others? What about when Donald Trump said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured? Would you consider that derogatory? All the statements that Donald Trump made about those who accused him of abuse, like E. Jean Carroll, was that derogatory? You see, Donald Trump makes derogatory comments about anyone he disagrees with on a daily basis, including Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota, after the horrible tragedy that took place where innocent people lost their lives. And then Donald Trump said he refused to even pick up the phone. He calls people names. He calls people stupid on a daily basis, even some people in his own administration at times that he's done in the past. But all of a sudden now, we are supposed to listen to Karoline Leavitt, and all of a sudden the Trump administration has a problem with people supposedly making derogatory comments. No, let me be very clear. At this time, if you still support Donald Trump today, and you have no problem with what's going on in this country, you have no problem with the fact that inflation is up, gas prices are up, GDP is down, and if you have no problem with the fact that he might be getting us into a war, in this case with Iran, if you have no problem with what's going on in Ukraine and people in this country that are not getting due process, persons, as it says in our Constitution, if you have no problem with any of this stuff, then you are mentally ill. Let me be very clear on that. And I support Jasmine Crockett, and I support what she said. At this point, if you are still all in with Donald Trump, there is something wrong with you. And you're the one who needs to get your head examined. This is the point that is so interesting to me, because Donald Trump is making the case that crime is the worst it's ever been in D.C. and that they have the worst violent crime in the country. Now, we know that that's a lie. Not only that, but Karoline the Liar Leavitt admitted that the numbers that are coming out of D.C. that have been dropping, which Kash Patel even admitted the other day, the numbers of violent crime in D.C. are the lowest they've been since the 1960s. And Karoline Leavitt, the only appearances she'll make are on right-wing television like Fox News, or as I like to call it, Fox Noise. And you have one of these idiot anchors in Earhart, is that her name? I don't even know how to pronounce her name, this bimbo. But she starts telling Karoline Leavitt, there's a lot of people that are saying that, this is the lowest crime rates we've seen since the 60s. It's 30%. Crime is down 30%. Is that a lie or is that true? And you actually have Karoline Leavitt saying those numbers are actually true. Listen to this.
Caroline, I know that the president can do this for 30 days if he notifies the right committees in Congress, which he did. There were some stories the Democrats were spreading the narrative. We don't need the National Guard in there because crime has gone down around 30%, 26%, I think, this past year, and 35% the year before that. And then we heard those numbers might be inaccurate. They might be false. And some people were let go or they were suspended, right, Brian, from their jobs because of it. Can you clear that up for us? Are those numbers correct?
Yeah, these numbers are absolutely correct, and we will continue to provide the American public and the press with the numbers because we're proud of these efforts. If the Democrats had their way, there would be hundreds more criminals roaming free in the streets of the District of Columbia right now. There would be hundreds of more illegal aliens who this task force has already detained and arrested, and now they are focused on deporting from our country. Those individuals would remain in the District of Columbia where they would have been free to do more harm. And that's not counting all of the would-be criminals that may have committed violent crimes and maybe taken the lives of law-abiding residents of this city, if not for the deterrence.
So there you have Karoline Leavitt that is admitting that crime is way down in D.C., upwards of 30%. Yet she's still trying to defend bringing in the National Guard. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's comical. It's so pathetic.